Hey chat, it's Type1, and Sakurai has done it again. We just got done with the Kirby Air Riders Direct, and it was amazing. This is a game. In this video, I'm going to go over the release date, as well as everything shown off in the Direct, discussing my thoughts, why I'm hyped, and what this means for other Nintendo games. This is our holiday title. What? But before we get into that, I am doing a $70 eShop gift card giveaway. All you gotta do is comment down on this video and make sure you are subscribed. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out the comment sheet in the description, which outlines all valid comments, as well as additional rules and regulations. Thank you so much for the support on the videos, and I wish you the best of luck. So the Kirby Air Riders Direct happened a few hours ago, and unfortunately I wasn't able to stream it live. I kind of overslept. The one Direct I missed out on, and it was actually really good. So I went ahead and watched it all, and we're gonna go over my thoughts on it, because legitimately this was amazing. And I don't know if it was because, you know, we haven't seen any gameplay of Kirby Air Riders, and you know, this is the first time, and it was such a blowout of information. There literally was no real speculation until now, and now there isn't that much speculation to begin with, because Sakurai just kind of went over almost everything. There is some stuff that he probably is hiding, but this literally picks up right where the teaser ended, where Kirby hops on his star and then blasts off. And immediately see Sakurai in a really clean setup. I like it. I like it a ton. But he gives a brief overview of, you know, Kirby Air Ride, what the game is, and legitimately pretty funny, because he basically says this is just Mario Kart, right? And he couldn't be more wrong. Legitimately, one thing throughout this whole Kirby Direct that I felt is this feels like a Switch 2 game. And it's weird to say, but like, you know, Mario Kart World was developed for Switch 1, got moved over to Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bonanza was also developed for Switch 1, got moved over to Switch 2. This game feels like it was developed for Switch 2. And we'll get into the reasons why, but like the tracks, the overall gameplay, the whole chaoticness just doesn't feel like it could run on a Switch 1. And to prove my point, there was an Ask the Developers kind of article that was put out by Nintendo where they, you know, explained that this was originally developed for Switch 1. And as you can see in the top image right here, this is Donkey Kong Bonanza running on Switch 1. And then the bottom is Donkey Kong Bonanza running on Switch 2. Like, so my thing is, it seems like Nintendo could have ran Donkey Kong Bonanza on Switch 1 just without less ambient lighting and less foliage, which is okay. I think we would have been happy with either game. The gameplay is still the same, but when it comes to Kirby Air Riders, to me it feels like this game cannot run on the Switch 1. I don't know. It is so chaotic. Multiple times in this Direct, Sakurai was like, oh, you know, back away from your screen, make your screen smaller, because there's a lot going on. And I thought he was crazy. But I've legit watched this 4 different times to kind of like fully process and understand really what's going on here. And yeah, he was not kidding. I just want to preface, I've never had that much experience with Kirby Air Ride. I will have to play it before Kirby Air Riders. But yeah, so this is going to be like my first experience with, you know, Kirby Air Riders. Right here, actually, in the Direct, he talks about how we got here. And he says it was by request of Nintendo and HAL. And it's kind of funny. I mean, it makes sense. And he said he immediately wrote up a proposal in the middle of working on DLC for Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I believe he revealed that at the end of his whole like series, his YouTube series that he did. Then he confirms it is in partnership with Bandai Namco, but I think we all kind of knew that. I think I was saying it was being made by Bandai even before we got that confirmation. So let's just dive deep into this Direct, because this is 45 minutes of pure goodness. And honestly, while watching this, I did not think there was such a dull moment. It was broken up. It was like there was waves. Don't get me wrong. There was like hype, then it kind of went slow, then it was hype. But the way that it was paced was actually pretty good. He starts by like, you know, discussing information and then going into actual gameplay. For example, with the tracks itself, he describes the air ride game mode, and then he does a whole lap air ride track which I feel like is a really good way to put it. This game oozes so much style, and honestly, you could tell it's made by the same people who made Smash Bros. Ultimate, that being Bandai and Sora Limited, and like their artistic flair is definitely in the game. And I think it's so amazing. It's so cool. I'm not gonna talk about too much about the gameplay mechanics because I mean we all watched the same direct, but the way the information was portrayed definitely, you know, helped me because I've never played a Kirby Air Ride game. So there is no acceleration, which is a little interesting for a racing game. But if you think about it, the goal is to move forward anyways, so there isn't really any point to accelerate. Of course, there's a drifting button and there's a special ability button where each character has their own special abilities, as well as copy abilities. He calls them copy hats, but they essentially, every person has their own copy ability now. Gliding in this game as well. There's a whole vertical mobility, like what? I think it's cool. It reminds me of like those Flash games where you have to, you know, angle your jump just right to land flat against the surface, as he's talking about right now, to maintain your momentum. I definitely found it interesting. This goes back to pacing, where he talks about, you know, a first set of machines and a first set of riders. And then throughout the direct, he also reveals more riders and more machines. This isn't a Nintendo kart of any kind. Personally, I was thinking that there isn't really a lot of Kirby characters, which, you know, I'm mistaken, okay? I'm mistaken. But I thought there might have been some Nintendo characters because they call it Kirby Air Riders. And he actually goes into this at the start of the direct where he was like, you know, the reason why we're calling it Air Riders is because we're separating the characters from the karts. But yeah, and this is actually really interesting. Real quick point. Some karts have different drift methods, which is like, it's almost genius. It's genius. It's cool. And they have like different karts, or like the tank where isn't really a drift, but you kind of angle and then you launch yourself off. It's cool. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I could be just like reiterating what Kirby Air Ride already had, but I'm excited for this game. And it seems like the Mario Kart we should have had. I'm not gonna lie, because the whole half of this Nintendo Direct is talking about the racing alone. And then he drops the bombshell where the racing isn't even the main part. Like, we all wanted City Trial, right? But he says the main event is City Trial after he talked 30 minutes about Kirby Air Ride, which is just crazy. That is like a bombshell. Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the air ride or, you know, racing portion of the direct is the overall tracks. And this is what I mean when it talks about, I do not think this game could run on the Switch 1. The overall graphics of the tracks, what's going on inside the tracks, the chaoticness, it cannot run on the Switch 1. And this is what I feel like Mario Kart World should have been. Because, like, I don't know what separates this from Mario Kart World for me, but when I see this, I'm like, this is, you know, this is next-gen hardware. But when I see Mario Kart World, I don't see it as next-gen. It feels very Switch 1 for some reason. Partly maybe because it was developed for Switch 1 at first. But, you know, it could be the lighting, it could be, you know, everything like that. But legitimately, I think it might be crazy, but I think this might be the kart racer for the Switch 2 for a while, unless Mario Kart World switches something up. If you think about it, Sakurai directed the third best-selling Switch game, being Smash Bros. Ultimate. So have him in charge of a kart racer, it could be up there. It could be up there. Can I talk about this scene really quick where Kirby is so happy being retired? I'm like, I cracked up when talking about that. But enough about Air Ride. Let's talk about City Trial, where he says this is the main event after talking about Air Ride for 25 minutes. So it's like, bruh. So he goes on to describe City Trial before, and this is actually where my knowledge for Kirby Air Ride started, is with City Trial. Every time everyone was talking about Air Riders and what they wanted for the game, they say City Trial. And I was like, okay, looks amazing. And I'm not gonna lie, is it just me, or does it seem like, have you guys ever played those disaster style mini games where disasters happen on a world and kind of have to survive? That's what this kind of feels like to me, but in a good way. He did confirm that this overworld Sky is the only map for City Trial so far, but it is huge. It has multiple environments. You know, we could have a lot of fun on this. It supports well, I believe he said up to 16 players, but this definitely reminds me of that one Smash 4 game where you collect different power-ups and everything. and then fight at the end of it, which apparently was inspired by City Trial as well. So that makes sense. But this looks a lot of fun. And if this is the main event, you know, I hope there is some sort of style ranking or MMR, because that's all I want in a game, really. That's the whole reason why I think Dragon X Drive felt a little empty to me, was because there wasn't any like progression in the game. I hope there's something similar to this, because if, you know, there is confirmed online play for, I believe, Air Ride and City Trial. So if there was any sort of ranking up system or MMR, I would love that. I don't think that was like one thing that he did not confirm, but hopefully in the future, because this game is about, what, 4 months away, we get a little bit more information where hopefully there is like some sort of ranking system, like, you know, Mario Kart World has the VRR. But low-key, there looks to be so much depth in this game mode, and I don't know what more to say besides that it looks super clean and super exciting. People are saying Nintendo is finally waking up. I said that in my last video on Kirby Air Riders, and it definitely feels like it. This is definitely a game to be hyped for. I think finally, like, we have something to look forward to in the long term, and then whatever direct we get next, we get in the short term. So I guess, speaking of, I think that's everything on City Trials. There's so much to do with it. He literally talked 30. At the end, we get an overview of everything, kind of clipping together montages, and a release date for Kirby Air Riders. And November 20th, this is our holiday title, landing directly in Black Friday week, if I'm correct. I did put Kirby Air Riders in November, so I am like 2 for 2 at the moment with my prediction. All we need is Super Mario Bros. Wonder to come out in October and not September, and then Metroid Prime Beyond in September. But what does that mean for Metroid Prime Beyond, to be honest? Because it's either coming out in September or coming out in November, because it is definitely not coming out in October, because October is, you know, of course, Pokemon Legends EA. I do believe Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is getting pushed back, or not really even pushed back, but, you know, they say this winter, and this winter means either early 2026 or late 2025. So I'm just thinking the more early 2026. And then my real question is, when does Metroid Prime Beyond come out? If it's September, there's like literally no time, unless they do a direct early September and then release it toward the end of it. I think that should be enough time for a press cycle. And I do want to do a video on this, on like, what is the point of release dates? How long should a press cycle be? But I think like the press cycle for Kirby Air Riders is pretty good. Like, I think that's a decent amount of time. Getting a, you know, direct sometime in August, and then like a 2-month buildup, then to November. But like the only real thing I could see now is either Metroid Prime Beyond coming out in December, or like a super short release in September. Right now, I'm actually hedging my bets on it coming out in December, but my track record so far, I kind of hope it comes out in September. This does make me think that Splatoon Raiders is definitely coming out in 2026, which is just so confusing why they announced it so early. The last thing we got in this direct was this weird teaser before the reveal of the release date. A lot of people were thinking this is going to be a single player mode, which I would agree, because if this is a holiday title, this would have to be a pretty big game, which it already feels pretty big, but adding a single player mode on top of that, or like a story mode of some kind, would make it like onto that next level where people would be like, wow, this is a value, I have to pick this game up. But a part of me also thinks it's probably just a tease for a unique character that hasn't been in Kirby before. But yeah, we will have to see. I'm pretty sure we'll get more info on this regarding the next direct, probably, you know, showing off this character, or maybe even revealing that there's a story mode. Last thing I want to go over is the price. They actually did not say this at all during the direct. I don't think they ever really say prices. Everyone is saying that, oh, they're hiding prices now. But like, if you really think about it, they've never told us prices before, except maybe for DLC. I just think it's just catching us a little off guard, because it's a different price than what we're used to. But $70 is the new $60 when it comes to Switch 2 titles. And by my formula that I have, That means this game is not going to get any more content updates, past launch, unlike Mario Kart World, which is going to get supported throughout its life. So yeah, this game is going to be $70 at launch, which I expected. I think everyone else expected. So yeah, but also supports 4-player split screen, which is surprising. I don't think they showed 2 players split screen in the Direct, but not 4. So that's actually really cool. And the game is 25 gigabytes. I know this is just crazy to see. Normally when I see any game that pushes 20 gigabytes for a Nintendo game, I'm like, wow, that game is packed. But this might just be the new norm because I believe like Mario Kart World is 22 gigs. So yeah. Let me know you made it this far in the video by telling me your favorite part of the Kirby Air Riders Direct. This is actually really exciting, and I might do another video talking about just the overall release date and what that means as a whole. I think I just kind of told you guys all my thoughts, but legitimately great Direct. Sakurai was such a joy to watch. We still have that September Direct, whenever that's supposed to be. I believe there's just a possibility it's just a Mario Direct now. So we will have to see, because realistically, they don't need to show off any more games until December. Well, and September, of course. But I think I stand by my thoughts on their whole new Direct strategy, which I'll go on in another video. I briefly talked about it when they announced the Kirby Air Riders Direct. But yeah, anyways, I'm Crafty Type 1. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm sorry I slept in, but I promise I won't do that for the rest of these Directs. I will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you so much, Evan and Jesus, for being channel members.